Yo, what is up, Bitcoiners? I hope you guys are doing well today. We are back with another episode of the Build a Mind podcast. I am your host, TrevorBello, and today I'm going to be joined again by Hanz from the BitBitePod. So we're going to be having another conversation that kind of builds on our last conversation. We're going to be talking about current events, some of our feelings around Bitcoin mining. We dive a little more into the heat reuse space, talk a little bit about Vegas conferences in general. We talk about Bitcoin Alaska. And, overall, we just really shoot the shit, have a good time. So I'm not going to drone on. I'm not really going to, make this more than it really needs to be. So I'm going to tell you guys about the Mastermind Club, and we're going to jump right into this podcast with Hanz from the BitBitePod.
Join the Mastermind Club, a weekly gathering of Bitcoin miners sharing insights to help you optimize or build your mining business. Our community fosters open discussion and collaboration, connecting you with experts who can help you overcome challenges and find solutions faster. Every other week, we host the Mastermind Deep Dive, where industry leaders delve into the financial, operational, and optimization hurdles faced by miners like you. Brought to you by Bitcoin Mining World.
Real quick, I did make this super easy. Just go to the Mastermind community link down there at the bottom, scan the QR code. It's super easy. Join the Mastermind community. We are a group of like-minded Bitcoin miners who are just trying to learn how to grow and optimize our Bitcoin mining operations. Whether you're a pleb like me or you actually want to get into large-scale megawatt mining facilities, this is the place to go. Real quick, before we get into the episode, I do want to give a special shout out to powermining.io. They sent me this really cool BitX in the mail. They showed it, they sent it to me. I opened it up. This is probably one of the coolest cases and stand setups that I've had. So I got a BitX 601 Gamma from them. Super cool. We do have an affiliate link if you want to purchase your Bitcoin miners, your BitX miners from them, powermining.io. Huge shout out to the team over there. We're going to be bringing them on here in a couple of weeks to talk about it and just show our appreciation a little bit. So definitely head on over there and see what you can get. But without further ado, let's jump right into the podcast with Hanz. So how you been, brother?
Dude, so it has been a roller coaster and a half since last time we talked. Although I think your travels have probably been a lot more interesting than what I've done lately. But man, it's just been hit after hit. I had my lawnmower stolen. I don't know, isn't that some crazy stuff?
Like just straight out of the garage or whatever?
Yeah, I have a little shed off to the side, and it was sitting in there, and that got taken. So that was a little bit of a painful experience because it was a riding lawnmower.
Man, it's not even like one of the push ones that you
get
for $100.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty expensive one. So that hurt. But man, I tell you what, I've just been pretty excited about. I mean, in one way, and I think we'll probably get into this a little bit more as we kind of go forward, but disappointed in kind of the spending that we've seen from the government. But at the same time, we know how that's going to benefit us in the long run. So, I mean, I was kind of up in the air about that and how I kind of feel about it. But at the same time, it makes me feel like I just got to make sure and deliver that message even more about getting people involved and making sure people get some sort of a stake within Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit today is I wanted to kind of just pick your brain on strategies and ways that you've been able to get that message out without people being super adverse to it. On our last episode that we did, we covered the whole gambit. We definitely talked about our intros into Bitcoin and then kind of what we do right now, me for heating and you for just kind of education. But one of those things that I was thinking about was just how as somebody, you have a non-Bitcoin job, you work with people on a day-to-day, but you educate in Bitcoin. So when it comes to all of the macro that we're seeing right now in economics and global finance, everything that's going on, how do you try to get that message across to coworkers, to family, to friends, and to even people just like randomly on the street? How do you do that? And like, what is the reaction that you're getting?
So, and it's trying to find, and I think the hardest thing, because I mean, anytime you're trying to educate anybody about Bitcoin, right, is trying to find something that they can relate it to. I think one that's been kind of interesting lately is been housing prices. I've got a niece that actually came into some money recently, and I'm trying to, like, her grandmother handles a lot of her funds for her, and so I'm trying to figure out a good, I guess, angle of attack to try and get them to understand why they need to purchase some Bitcoin. And I think the one that I found with them is real estate prices, because I think the general masses, people at large, I think understand real estate. You buy a property, you expect it to go up in price, right? What they don't realize is what's actually happening is that dollar
goes up in price.
Yeah, that dollar is devaluating, and so your home price is appraising. So I think I think that's the best way to kind of look at it, because I think the approach that I'm going to give them, and this is going to be a test run, and I'm open to suggestions. Like, if you got something else that might work, I'm here for it. But I think what I'm going to talk about is that, when I bought this house that I'm living in now, we've got it about 5 years ago. It was probably 36, 38 Bitcoin, and today, even with the appreciation in price, it's probably 5 Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that, the world priced in Bitcoin or whatever that chart is. I can't remember the website. I'll have to try to find it afterwards, but there's a website that'll show you that, things in fiat terms and things in Bitcoin terms over time, and the value in Bitcoin, that thing compared to Bitcoin just goes up, and that thing compared to fiat just goes down.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a great way to introduce it. If you don't feel comfortable sharing this, that's fine, but are they like purchasing outright? Are they getting a mortgage? Like, what are they planning on doing?
So they're not looking to purchase a home right now. They came into some funds, and it was from an accident. Like, it wasn't, I mean, it's not great news, right? Like, but it was from an accident. They'd paid off some of the medical stuff already. So they got sort of a chunk of change, and they just tossed it into their savings account. And so I really want to get them to, and I'm not going to try and push them to put it all into Bitcoin, into the BTC, but to get them to at least put a portion and get off zero. Because to me, I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. This is something that we kind of talked about a little bit last time, is just getting off zero. Where your money goes, your mind follows.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand Bitcoin, the best thing for anyone to do is to just get a little bit of an exposure to it. What I think is interesting for their position, there are, and this is something where Uncle Hans is gonna have to come in and help them. But there are companies now where you can get a mortgage that it's not backed by Bitcoin, but it has Bitcoin baked into the mortgage, and that has huge implications for like the way that the annual percentage, the APR is handled, the way that the fixed terms are handled. Again, I'm not well versed in all of this, so I can't really say like exactly how it works, but I know that there's companies out there that will help you get a mortgage and then put Bitcoin as part of the collateral for that mortgage. So, maybe you don't have to put so much down as a down payment, and maybe it drops your APR from, let's say 9% down to 7 or 8%, which is considerable. So maybe that could be like you're in, and you'd have to do a significant amount of research to be able to explain it to them, because I feel like that's the hardest part, is explaining it to people in a way that they can comprehend. But if you were able to do that and just say, hey guys, go buy your $500,000 house, put $30,000 down, and buy $15,000, $20,000 worth of Bitcoin. So you're $50,000 down, but that Bitcoin sits in an account, and it appreciates through time and allows you to reduce your APR over the course of 15 years. And again, I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works, but I think that could be a really good in for you.
Well, and I think one of the other cool things, and I think, online on X, like, everybody's talking about now how, when I first bought a home, me personally, I couldn't account my Bitcoin as an asset that I had But now those rules have all changed.
Yep.
People that have Bitcoin sitting in an account, maybe they have $1,000 sitting in their checking account and that's it. But they have a stack of Bitcoin sitting off to the side. And now they can actually put that in and say, well, I have this as an asset. Whereas before that wasn't recognized by Freddie Mae and all those folks that were backing the mortgage loans as an asset that you had to have. They wanted you to have cash or stocks, something along those lines. And now all of that has changed.
Yeah, and I think that that's really due to, I know that those rules changed last year before the inauguration of Trump, but we're seeing, and love him or hate him, I'm not a Trump fan, but we're seeing huge wins in the crypto community. And I hate to use that term because I'm a Bitcoin maxi, but the fact that we can do that we can now recognize this as an asset on our balance sheet and use it as collateral in things like mortgages and land purchases, that is a huge win. And to the point of trying to onboard people into Bitcoin, trying to help people understand like why Bitcoin is a better asset than the dollar. Like it's kind of null and void when it's kind of a moot point, but like when you explain it to somebody that way, they kind of get their foot in the door and they start to understand, oh, there's this thing that I have that's causing the appreciation of my house to go up faster while I'm dropping the annual percentage rating. I think it's kind of a big win for us as U.S. citizens.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just like it's a double win, basically, in my opinion. I mean, because not only do you get to hold the Bitcoin, but then you also get to see this asset just kind of grow and grow and grow. And the one thing that I love about that is she's young. So I mean, if she can get in now, and I know she has no clue. Like I talked to her about it, and you can see the lights go off.
Deer in the headlights look.
Yeah, it's like I have no clue what you're talking about. You're just talking about crazy internet magic money, and I have no desire. And it's funny too because I think Bitcoin, like, it's really getting that moniker of being the boomer coin, right? Especially now with all the other stuff that's out there. But it's like that's really the only horse in the race that you need to have. I agree with you on the Bitcoin maxi part of it. I do have other altcoins that I've just had for a long time that I'm looking to get rid of, but I'm not going to get rid of them until the peak of this cycle. Like I'm not going to sell at the bottom, but I need to get everything moved over to Bitcoin. Majority of my holdings is Bitcoin, and I really only express to people you should buy Bitcoin. But
we discussed this a little bit last time too. It's just like our kind of different perspectives on it. Me personally, like I said last time, is like I've had such a condensed education into Bitcoin that I didn't get involved with anything else. Yeah. And so being all in on Bitcoin from basically like the very beginning, it has helped me in that way. But you have, I can't remember what the bias is, but it's like when you already hold something, you have this bias that like, well, I don't want to sell it at a loss. I want to sell it at a gain. So, I completely understand. And then, I tell people all the time, like I'll be honest, I'm tired of having this whole, well, what do you think about XRP conversation? I'm tired of having it. But every time that someone brings this up, when I start talking about Bitcoin, I tell them, look, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money, with your value, with your time, your energy, your life force. It's not my prerogative. What I'm here to say is, or what I'm here to do is be an advocate for Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin advocate. I want everybody to hold Bitcoin. I want them to learn about it, educate themselves, and start to go down that rabbit hole for themselves. But if you want to get into XRP, if you want to hold Solana, if you want to hold Litecoin, like if you want to hold these, albeit it's all yours. Like you do what you want to do. Realize that at the end of the day, when you're holding these other things, like the best case scenario is it's a speculative gamble and not a actual investment into your future and humanity as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you hold anything other than Bitcoin, and I would hate to say that you're holding anything else, because I think you're right on the head. It's a speculative asset at that point. You're making a speculative play. Your only play at that point should be how much of that can I sell and move back into Bitcoin? Yeah. It's not whether or not, oh, well, I'm gonna hodl XRP until it's $10,000. That's not how the market cap works, and that's not going to be what happens. Yeah, honestly, it's a fallacy. People never understand market capitalization at all. That's always such a huge thing. But kind of one thing that I say that's kind of interesting when I look at that is whenever Doge kind of was just coming onto the scene, and I saw how much they were actually creating of Doge, like every block as it was coming out, it was just getting printed, and I can't remember what the numbers are, but it was so ridiculous. I was like,
Just a
that thing,
massive amount.
yeah, it's stupid. I was like, that thing is, they're printing so much more Doge every single day. It's almost impossible that it would ever reach a quarter. And now I was wrong on that. But I mean, the people, you could never imagine how people will shill something like that. I never thought that Doge would do anything of the sort of what it has done. But you're absolutely right. I think if you're looking at anything other than Bitcoin for a long-term play, you're losing money and you're being stupid.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking. And
yeah.
I mean, it's no offense to them. If that's how they want to do it, if that's how they want to play it, like you said, that's completely up to them.
Yeah, but it's not. But I'm not gonna sit here and like tout, oh, Doge is the next thing or Litecoin's the next thing. One, because I haven't done enough research to know anything about it, and two, my only focus is Bitcoin. I don't focus on anything else. Not to say that there isn't a cryptocurrency or a crypto token that has some utility value in some part of the market. That's not to say that. But do I want to spend my time trying to decipher all of these different cryptos and figure out which one it is when I already know that Bitcoin has the best fundamentals, when I already know that Bitcoin has the largest market cap, the largest network effect, it's the largest computing network in the world. I already know all that.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's there. The only thing it's lacking, and layer solutions are going to bring something to it at some point, is speed.
Yeah.
But the speed isn't even horrible. Like, it handles the transactions it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, will people buy coffee eventually one day with Bitcoin? I kind of doubt it, but
actually, I disagree with that because I've bought Bitcoin with Lightning, or I've bought coffee with Lightning.
And that's the thing. Like, I think second layer could be the solution to that. I wonder about that. Like, and maybe, so what, we got that news the other day about Trump's talking about reducing capital gains on transactions, and I don't know what the threshold is. I want to say it's 600.
Yeah,
maybe
I thought it was $600.
Yeah. So I mean, in that case, maybe we'll see more of that. I don't know. Like, I always think about that. Like, I remember, and I think I may have talked to you about this on the last episode, when I bought a cell phone. I bought the HTC One or whatever that thing was. It was a Bitcoin phone or blockchain phone, and I spent a tenth of a Bitcoin on it. Right. Thinking I was like, cool. Yeah.
That's a $10,000 phone.
That's a $10,000 phone now. Like, it's the pizza guy. Right. But it's like, ooh, so that's the only time that, I mean, eventually Bitcoin's going to get to a price where it's not fluctuating like crazy, where we have these crazy moves. It'll move a little bit, but it's not going to be, but that's so far down the road before we get to that level where you don't have those crazy market fluctuations within Bitcoin. But at that point, then I'd feel comfortable spending a little bit more of it. But I mean, at this point now, like even with the prices it is now, spending a few sats on coffee, that's not a big deal.
Yeah. To me, the whole unit of account thing, we pretty much already have. We already know that it's a unit of account, but the medium of exchange portion of it's like, I look at it from an ideological perspective. I come into Bitcoin from the ideological perspective. I mine Bitcoin from an ideological perspective. I hold it from an ideological perspective, and I spend it from an ideological perspective. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't spend Bitcoin. I definitely have, and I definitely continue to. The difference is that when I spend my Bitcoin for something versus spending fiat for something, I am telling that market participant, whoever I'm buying a good from, I am telling them that their goods, their services are so valuable that I am willing to pay Bitcoin for it. I think Bitcoin is a superior asset, which means that if I am buying something from you, like in Bitcoin Alaska, I was just there. Every time I go to a conference, Bitcoin Panties is there. I buy my wife some panties because they're like the best underwear she's ever had. So I always buy some. And every time I buy them, I always buy them with Bitcoin. And it's because of the fact that, like, A, I think they're high quality goods. B, I can just use Lightning real fast and just send a payment over. Yeah. And C, it's like it's I'm helping to grow the circular economy, the Bitcoin exchange throughout this network that we're trying to create.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right on the head with that, and I think that's part of the reason why I can still be okay with the purchasing of the phone is the fact that they were willing to open up the marketplace at that time for Bitcoin to do it. I mean, obviously now I kind of kicked myself, but at the same time I was like, you know what? I'm proving that you can use Bitcoin to buy something. A lot of people, especially at the time when I did that, it was like, oh no, that doesn't happen.
Hey, are you back? Okay, sorry about that, guys. We had
No,
a little bit of a delay. We're back. Anyways, we were talking about spending Bitcoin into the market, buying coffee with Bitcoin, that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
yeah. So, and what I was saying was, I think that's the way that I kind of sell myself on the cell phone was that at the time, it was the market was cool with it. And did you freeze again? Oh man, Trevor, are you there? Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know what is happening. I'm connected, but my connection is unstable. I'm plugged in. I've got a hard line. I have no idea what's happening right now.
That was crazy.
Let me just, I'm gonna have to edit this all out, but I'm gonna close some stuff here. Shoot.
No, that's okay. It happens. World of internet. Yeah, you're paused again. Internet.
Okay. Let's try this again. It seems to be stable right now. So I'm gonna let you rip one more time.
Okay. So basically what I was saying was, and I'll just kind of move off this real quick, is that I think that's the way that I convinced myself that buying that cell phone was okay, because at the time they were opening up the economy for that cell phone to Bitcoin, which was unheard of at the time, whenever that cell phone had been released. So that's the way that I spin it to myself, that even though it's a $10,000 phone now, that it was okay to do. It was acceptable.
Well, this is an interesting thought, and I've really wrestled with this quite a bit, because I've had so many conversations with people. It's like, well, I bought this thing back at this time in 2013, 2017, and if I look at it priced in Bitcoin today, it's exponentially worth more than what I spent on it then, and, like, it doesn't really equal out. But this is how I framed that whole argument, and it's, first off, you can't eat your Bitcoin, like you can't eat it. And you trade your life force, your energy, your time for money at the end of the day. And whatever form of money you choose to put your time into, that's on you. But at the end of the day, you're not doing it to get money particularly. You're doing it so that you have a unit of measurement that you can go trade into the market for other goods and services to live a comfortable or satisfying life. So, I look at, like, me particularly. In 2020, we bought a home. In 2022, we started saving in Bitcoin. We got married. And in 2024, I had my son. Okay, so he's 11 months old today. But before we had him, my car broke down. So my Honda CRV blew a head gasket. So if you know anything about motors, I know you do, what I mean? But for the people listening, is like, when that happens, you got to pull the whole top end of the motor out. It's like a bunch of parts, bunch of stuff that has to be done, timing, like the ignition coils. You got to do like a new head gasket, new studs. It's a bunch of work. And then also at the exact same time, before my son was born, we had a bunch of remodeling on the house that needed to be done. Like the entire inside of my house needed to be painted, needed to put new floors in. His room, the nursery, had to be redone completely. And so all of these things add up. And I was able to take some of my savings, my Bitcoin savings, transfer it into gift cards, pay for the materials, the stuff that I needed to do all of this work on the car and the home. And at the end of the day, before my son was born, all this work got done. Yeah. And, we still have savings. We still have money set aside. We didn't go backwards. If I look now today, a year later, when Bitcoin has almost like more than doubled since then, it's like, oh, I spent $1,000 on a head gasket. It's like, no, I bought a head gasket at the time that I needed to drive my car, and it made me more comfortable, more satisfied, less stress. So what's that stress-free environment worth to you? versus like spending a little bit of your Bitcoin that you saved. I mean, I didn't frame that right. I didn't explain it right, but I think the audience will get the gist.
Yeah, I think, and I totally get what you're saying. I mean, that's the beautiful thing is that as long as you, especially those of us that have gotten in for a while, and I mean, I know you've kind of been in for a bit now. You're basically your first cycle's completed, right?
I'm going on 3 years, so I still haven't completed a full cycle yet.
You're just about there though, dude. You might as well be. Like, we're going into our the end with our blow off top and well, maybe, but
we'll see.
It seems like we should be going through our first cycle. So congratulations to you on that. Like, but the beautiful thing about that is that, as it continues to appreciate, you get to just take a little bit of a fraction every time, a little bit more, a little bit less of a fraction every time. And as long as you continue to keep that stack going, and saving Bitcoin and selling and spending in fiat or whatever the case may be, I don't think that's a bad trade-off at all, because I think you're right. I mean, when we look at time, our time especially, that's the only thing that we know that's limited next to Bitcoin. We don't know how much life we have as we move from day to day. So what do you think? I was wanting to ask you this because we kind of did lead off with this, but what are you thinking of the macroeconomic headwinds that we have right now? Or I guess tailwinds is what we're starting to get. What do you think of those spending bills and everything else that we have going on?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to preface this by saying that I know nothing. I don't pay attention to the news. I hear things on Bitcoin Twitter. I kind of just like stay in my own lane, do my build a business, that kind of stuff. So from that perspective, I'm grateful that we have the administration that we have in this aspect of like crypto acceptance, like Bitcoin acceptance, like where Bitcoin is going because of the acceptance that the administration has. You've got JD Vance, you've got RFK, you've got Donald Trump, you've got the Trump boys, like all these people hold Bitcoin, they own Bitcoin, they want Bitcoin to proliferate. What scares me is that, like you've got all these people on the left side and the right side. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on. They're all like talking about how, we're spending all this money and, you voted for this, so this is what you deserve. And it's like, I try to explain to people, we voted for the better administration, the better of two poisons, for lack of a better phrase. That doesn't mean that we voted for selling off all of our national parks. That's not to say that we voted for, all of the crazy stuff that's happening right now. And I think that we still have to continue to fight and to push forward the narrative of like better money, Bitcoin, not selling land that is rightfully the US citizens and not the government's. I think it's important to remember that. But then also, like, we just what did we raise the debt ceiling by? Like another $6 trillion or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was another, $5 trillion that was added on to the spending bill on top of the 37 trillion that's already in existence. It's like, dude, like.
Yeah, they're not going to stop. I mean, this goes back to what Lynn Alden's been saying. Like, nothing stops this train. It doesn't matter if it's Democrats, Republicans, Elon Musk's new cabinet that he's trying to create or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. They're going to continue spending. That's because they are fully stuck in the fiat mindset. The fiat mind virus is so pervasive. And so, like, I think this is part of why I separate myself and I, kind of like sit in the background and I do my own stuff, knowing that I save in Bitcoin. And because of that, it's affording me the time to sit back, look at everything from an outside perspective and just realize that nothing in the fiat system has changed other than the fact that now the government wants to hold Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my perspective.
No, I think I pretty much it nails it on the head. What I'm wrestling with, and so it's twofold. And I think, yes, like the administration, Bitcoin friendly, love it. I'm glad that we're seeing the regulations get through. Like the Genius Act, one of my concerns, and I want to just toss this out there and maybe listeners will be able to evaluate if I'm way off base on this or not. But one of the things I was thinking about with the Fiat Act is that if you look at the M2 money supply, and we're thinking about this as, say, a closed vessel where you have a cap, you have money that's building up, and we were getting kind of that debt ceiling, right at the top. What we've done, I feel like, with the Genius Act is it feels like they put a relief valve off to the side, and they're going to be able to fill another tank with more treasury bonds and all this other debt to inflate the money supply even more with these stable coins that is going to get produced. Because requiring the stable coins to have backed treasury notes allows you to increase that pool of liquidity, I guess, basically for the U.S. government to print more money. So I don't know if I'm looking at that correctly. Either way, that's still good for Bitcoin at the end of the day. But I think people need to understand, and this is my own personal point of view on this, and I could be way off base, is that when we go to our politicians, and you're right, it's basically two heads of the same beast, right? It's a two-headed hydra. Every time that they sit there and like, oh, left or right, it's like, no, you guys are both two heads of the same beast, whatever the case may be. And I think what's going to happen is people will continually want to see the government give them their handouts. They continually want to see, like, these entitlement programs continue to grow, and the government will be more than happy to do it because they will say it's free to the people. There's nothing that's free. All they're going to do is inflate the money supply, pay to fund these different bills, and our Bitcoin's going to go up because of it. But unfortunately, those that are not paying attention to that, they're going to lose out.
Well, and okay, so I really want to touch on this. I want to open this up a little bit. This whole entitlement thing. And like you have the mass majority of US citizens who want those entitlements, be it Social Security, be it food stamps, be it healthcare, be it housing, whatever. The biggest issue I see is that most of these people believe that that is theirs by right. Yeah. That they've worked into the system, they've provided to the system, they deserve that, and it's theirs by right. And the hardest thing is to have an argument with, a 65-year-old woman who's worked the last 40 years to, put into the system, and now she's on disabilities, now she's, on fixed income, and you're going to tell her, hey, that's what's destroying the money supply. That's the biggest problem. So like there's this huge dichotomy or, difference between like what that person sees because they're getting that healthcare, they're getting that disability, and it's actually going down over time because the disability doesn't increase. And then somebody like myself who it's like, I refuse to pay into that system. I know that I'm not going to get it. And I know that if we just cut entitlements in half, we would save what was it, like $15 trillion or something like that over the course of I think it was like 5 years. I'm completely off base on those numbers, but either way, the gist of it is that by cutting or reducing those entitlements, we're able to reduce spending significantly. But you have 95% of the population in the US who not only depend on those entitlements, but want the entitlements to continue. And because of that, you have a government that they're kind of forced to inflate and print money in order to continue paying for the entitlements because they spent all the money that the people paid into, so it becomes this huge, like, terrible revolving cycle.
Oh, it's nonstop. And it doesn't. And then the thing, and I think the thing that kills me is that people will look at that and then they get mad at people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, anybody that has any type of assets, people that are going to hold Bitcoin. Eventually, we're getting there, but eventually people that hold Bitcoin, we're going to get lumped in with all those other folks. Yep. And the reason is because as they increase those entitlements, as they continue to print more money, the assets, the money flows directly into those hard assets first. Those are the first things that go up in value, right?
Yep.
So what happens is these people that are right there siphoning off that spigot,
people.
Yeah. Well, and the poor people, they don't understand to buy hard assets. They
that's exactly.
They still try and save them fiat, right?
Yep. Poor people don't understand that buying assets is the way to go. And this is why, fundamentally, this is the reason why I try to tell everybody to buy Bitcoin, whether you buy $5 of Bitcoin or $500,000 of Bitcoin, it doesn't matter because that $5 is your savings. Yeah. And if you don't have a savings, if you have a zero savings account and you put $5 in and that $5 goes up in value every 4 years by 100%, guess what? In 20 years, that $5 is $20 at least. Yeah. Okay. Exponentially grow that. And then all of a sudden you become someone who has the money to live the life that you want to live. And poor people, and this is not knocking poor people. I'm not knocking them whatsoever. But poor people don't understand that you can't tax the rich because they have the highest tax incentives. They're already paying a ton in taxes. And because they make so much money, they have tax advisors that help them to navigate the tax law, and you don't. And because you don't, now you're paying, 25% in taxes and all this other stuff. It's stacked against you when you're poor. And if you don't take that first step into buying assets, you're not going to get there. No. And the biggest problem with land is like, you can't go buy 1/100th of a piece of property. You can't do that. You can't.
Maybe one day they'll tokenize it, but yeah, right now you still can't do that.
No, but even tokenizing it, you don't own the rights to the land. You know what I mean? Like there are services out there right now where you can buy a portion of like real estate. Great. Yeah. You don't own the real estate. You own an IOU that allows you to gain exposure to the real estate.
Right.
Whereas Bitcoin, when I go buy 1/100th of a Bitcoin, that is my Bitcoin. I get to choose, exactly. I get to choose what I want to do with it, where I want to do with it, like whatever. I can lose it on a boating accident. I could give it to my neighbor. I could buy a pizza with it. It doesn't matter. And this is the biggest thing about Bitcoin that I wish people would start to realize, is that you now have the ability to buy the most pristine capital in the world at a fraction of what it costs for a whole.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Absolutely. And you are getting it right on the head. That's exactly why I wanted to have this conversation with you, is because people really need to understand they need to get something. They need to buy that hard asset, because I think the rich people getting rich, the poor people getting poor, that's a symptom. It's not because the rich people are rich. It's a symptom of a broken system. That's all that is. And people need to understand that, because they're getting angry. They're getting pissed because we have these haves and have-nots, and they're trying to take it out on the rich people. It's like, no, they gamed the system that was built and designed to help them out. It's not their fault.
And let's take Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk for a perfect example. Okay, you can't hate on them, because they built a business. They built something that society wanted. Jeff Bezos built the number one highest grossing e-commerce business that the world has ever seen. You can go on Amazon, and within 20 minutes, you can purchase something, and in 2 days have it shipped to your door. Okay, that wasn't possible in the early 2000s. He had to build it. Okay, everybody uses Amazon. Everybody. And with Tesla, okay, Elon Musk is doing some incredible stuff with Tesla, with SpaceX, with, all these different things. He put a product into the market that everybody like values, they agree to it, and they spend their money on it. So at the end of the day, like, you can't just say, oh, well, fuck Elon, fuck Bezos, because they're multi-billionaires. It's like, no, they went out and did the thing that capitalism says that you have the ability to do. It's not their fault that we live in a world of crony capitalism where there's like a dime a dozen, or not a dime a dozen, but like 1 in a million chance of you actually creating that business. You know, it's not their fault. And again, going back to this poor mindset, is like, the poor mindset is tax the rich. Those people don't deserve to have that much money, and I should have a portion of it. It's like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
That's not how that functions. Yeah. It's unfortunate. And I think that goes back to, how do we educate the masses, right? And that's where trying to come up with a way that we can get people to understand, because it's got to be something that's relatable to them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they completely get lost. Like, I mean, I'm sure people that are probably listening to your podcast and people that listen to my podcast, I wish I was reaching more people that are just like, oh, I have no idea what this is. I'm pretty sure the people that listen to me are like, yeah, I know what Bitcoin is. Like, I don't think I'm getting through to the people that aren't aware of what Bitcoin is or how it functions.
The audience gets it. If you're watching this, you get it. Like, for me, going back to like the whole point of like trying to orange pill people, trying to shift their perspectives. And we hit on this last time we talked about it, but when I have these conversations, I've stopped trying to immediately throw in, well, Bitcoin is this great thing. Because again, people's eyes glaze over. You start talking about magic internet money and people are like, whatever. Exactly. So what I've started to do is, I inject it into the conversation in a very subtle way. It's like, people ask me what I do. I say, oh, I have a podcast. They're like, well, what's the podcast about? I said, well, I'm really into hard assets. I really like the idea of being able to trade your time for something that can't be inflated away or debased. And so therefore I educate about Bitcoin, and I also invest in gold. And when I say that I do invest in gold a tiny bit, not nearly as much as my Bitcoin stack. But the reason I say that is because people fundamentally, like, they get gold. Gold makes sense to them. So they're like, okay, well, like, how does Bitcoin relate to gold? What should I do? And I tell people, if you want to start to understand why Bitcoin is a better form of gold, buy some, just buy a little bit. And I tell everyone, here's my number. You can call me anytime. Give me a shout. I will help you find out how to get some exposure to Bitcoin. And that just kind of gets them thinking. I think that the first thing is getting someone off zero. And the second thing is giving them good resources to start to go down the rabbit hole themselves. Whether they go at a snail's pace or they go Usain Bolt down the rabbit hole, that's up to them. But if they don't have questions, we can't have a conversation that's constructive. If you're just sitting here mansplaining, throwing things out at them, 21 million, Satoshi Nakamoto, all these things, like, they're like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, dude. I don't know what that is. Versus when somebody comes up to you, it's like, okay, well, what's this whole supply cap thing? Well, what do you think about Satoshi Nakamoto? What is Lightning versus Bitcoin? What are wallets? What's a seed phrase? What's
keys? I don't have a key. Like, what do you mean?
Exactly. So by using small, subtle framings, and then telling them, hey, I will hold your hand the entire way. Just get off zero and start educating yourself. And then when you have questions, come back to me. I think that's a better way than just like trying to scream into the void, this is why you need Bitcoin, when to your original point, everybody has a different perspective. And if you don't come at them from their perspective, they're going to be like, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's something that's got to be, and I think you bring up a good point, is that you don't want to, people have heard enough about Bitcoin. I think at this point, people that haven't heard the name of Bitcoin, at least, is probably very small. I mean, they've been hearing people, and it sounds like the fringe group that slowly has been getting louder and louder and louder. Like, I think nailing it on the head where you discuss it with gold, because I think the gold bugs and the Bitcoiners, so much of what they say is alike, right? It's aligned.
Yeah.
We have very similar values in a lot of ways. And I personally, I agree with you. Like, gold is also a good investment. Gold, Bitcoin, silver, like all that stuff I'm happy with.
Yeah.
So I think just framing that conversation in a way where you're able to kind of slip in the Trojan horse, where it's like, well, if you look at this and you see how this functions, and then eventually this leads to this, right? And I think you're right where the questions part of it. If they're not asking questions, they're not interested.
Yeah, because they're not seeking to learn. By asking questions, you're seeking to learn, which means you're already open to the idea of it and you want to better understand it. That's kind of where like the questions come in. And if you have somebody that you trust that you can ask questions to, it's like your niece, if she has questions, she can ask you and you'll answer those questions. But then from the perspective of answering the questions and being the teacher, how do you answer the question without like over explaining it to the point where they get they have a million more questions? We want to answer the question without giving them 100 more questions to ask.
Right.
Basically, it's kind of where it is. One thing I do think is pretty interesting to like frame it for people is ask them. And I heard this on a podcast the other day, and I can't remember what podcast it is. I always do this. I listen to so many, but it was like, you ask them, if you look into the future, are you seeing a world from your perspective? Are you seeing a world that is more digital or more analog?
Yeah.
Because if you're seeing a world that's more digital, do you believe that in a digital world we'll have analog currency?
Yep.
Because
I think we may have even talked about that last time we were together too. Because I had a buddy that was on board of a bank, and I asked him that.
Yeah.
More digital or less digital as we go forward?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of, if that might help people frame it a little bit differently and look at the problem from a different perspective that helps them see into why Bitcoin, being digital money that can't be corrupted as easily. I mean, it can still probably be corrupted in some way, but that kind of helps people understand it. I think that's a super interesting way to frame it. So let's shift gears a little bit, Hanz. What else have you been doing? Have you kind of increased your Bitcoin mining stack a little bit? Like, what have you been doing?
So I haven't gotten to add anything new. I got my Avalon Nano S Plus here, right? I've got that running. I've got my BitX going. I after talking to you, I think I need to switch over to knots with my node. I still haven't made the changeover yet. I need to get that switched over. But I haven't added anything new to that. I was looking at trying to get some solar cells set up just because I was like, man, you know what? After talking to you, I was kind of inspired to be like, all right, let's see if we can get some mining at no cost to me. I mean, other than paying for the solar panel and just run a BitX off it. I haven't done that yet. But that's something I want to kind of mess around with and see about really kind of flexing that on there.
Yeah, but we definitely discussed heat reuse and home mining. But I never asked you what part of what part of the world are you in? Do you need heat at all?
So I do during the winter. And I think where I'm at right now, like we get really hot summers because I'm in New Mexico, right? So I'm in the high desert. I'm up in the Four Corners area. So we get really hot summers and we get mild winters, I would say. We don't get super cold. We'll get down to, maybe -10 for a week, maybe in the winter. But after that, like we start to kind of warm back up. But usually we're in the, low 30s. Maybe.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're kind of like me. We get a little bit colder than you do, but being on, the Central Coast, on the West Coast, I mean, we get mild winters. And the summers are not like always hot, but we do get up to the 90s in the summertime. But my point is that like if you're going to get solar, that's awesome. Get some solar, mine at zero cost for the energy side of it. But it would be really cool to start playing around with some heat reuse stuff and see what you could heat up, what you could accomplish from a heat reuse perspective. You don't need air heat very often, but I guarantee you're still heating your hot water. There's other things that people have done. I know some people who are running Bitcoin miners to dehumidify or to dehydrate food. Like somebody's literally dumping heat into a dehydrator box and they're, making jerky, they're making fruit rolls and other kinds of things by using a Bitcoin miner. So there's other ways for people to do it. There's one thing that I love about the heat punks community is that we're just anywhere you need heat and you can plug in a Bitcoin miner to provide the heat, you have this perfect symbiotic relationship.
No, and I love that. And I think it's something I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, especially kind of that goes along with this. You've gone to you just got back from that mining Alaska?
Yeah. So, Bitcoin Alaska.
Okay, what all was there? Was that basically for the heat punks? Was that for
No? So Bitcoin Alaska, this was the first time that they did it, and the whole idea is that we want to introduce the idea of Bitcoin to Alaskans and by proxy Bitcoin mining, because a lot of people don't realize, everybody thinks about Texas and oil, but Alaska has more oil than the entire United States combined. Yeah. Alaska has more oil. I think Senator or Congressman Begich was saying, I think there's 500 billion cubic yards of natural gas just sitting in the ground. Yeah. And all of that can be utilized as an energy source. So, up on the north slope in Alaska, that's the top of Alaska, a huge mountain range. They're pulling oil out of the ground and they're setting it through pipeline. But anytime you pull oil out of the ground, you have a natural gas byproduct. Yeah. Exactly. And if you can burn that natural gas on site, run it through a generator, turn it into Bitcoin, that's a great opportunity for a lot of people. So there's that. But there's not just oil in Alaska. Okay. Alaska has the most oil, but they also have some of the best hydropower. They have some of the largest rivers and the largest dams that we see in North America. Okay. And they have the ability to just generate an absolute boatload of power. So it's a perfect relationship between Bitcoin mining and the energy production in Alaska. So the whole conference was just us trying to onboard the residents of Alaska in Juneau. Congressman Begich was there. Commissioner Adam Crum was there. They're both on board, and they're just trying to get information so that we can help educate the masses and teach them why Bitcoin is a superior store of value, and also how Bitcoin mining is a better way to, capture some of that energy waste and also bolster their energy grids.
Yeah, that stranded energy up there, that's got to be crazy. And I didn't realize the hydro production, like when you were talking about the hydro plants up there. Like, I didn't think that was a thing in Alaska. I didn't realize that there was that much.
There's tons.
Yeah, I knew about the gas and the oil. I wasn't aware of the other. So that's awesome to me. How big was the conference? Like, did you guys get a lot of people that went?
It was really small. I wish it was bigger. It was really, really small. There was probably 150 people or so there throughout the whole conference, but it's the first conference. It's the first time that they've done it. So I'd like to see more people next year. If we can get, more word out there, share it with a lot more people, get people up there. So it was very small. It wasn't as big as I would have liked to have had it been.
So, and Alaska gets cold.
Oh yeah.
Could they do, Bitcoin heat reusing mining up there?
Oh yeah. So most of the heating infrastructure comes from wood burning stoves or oil burning stoves. Okay. So that's basically, in Juneau, in most of the Southeast, and even in the northern parts of Alaska, like there is no electrical infrastructure for heating in houses. They don't do AC units. They don't do HVAC units. They literally put a wood stove in there. They burn it, or they burn oil. And that's because you can cut down a tree and you can truck in oil. Yeah. The biggest problem with that is that oil, heat oil, is expensive, ungodly expensive. I think it's like something like $7 or $8 a gallon. And then, it's expensive. And then burning trees, like burning wood, like that's super carcinogenic. Like you create a lot of smoke, a lot of CO2 into the atmosphere. So what's interesting is that all these houses have electricity. So if you could find a way to install a Bitcoin miner, all of a sudden you're creating this heat that's got no CO2 emissions. You have this heat that's safe, and it's also producing a ton of Bitcoin in relation to the amount of energy that you're putting into it. So it's paying for itself. At the very minimum, it's paying for itself. And I think it's a huge opportunity for a lot of residents in Alaska. The biggest issue right now that Alaskan residents are seeing is whether or not they have the electrical infrastructure to set it up. So it's very possible. It's very doable, but it's not at the stage right now where just the average normie is going to be able to buy something, plug it in, and run it.
Yeah. No, and because you think of anybody in the United States, and I'm just talking about the United States population and the mindset, anybody that would understand and embrace Bitcoin, I would feel like Alaskans would be the ones that would be able to grasp that, just because they have that frontier mind state and they're just like, hey, leave me alone. Let me do my thing.
That's kind of what we thought as well, but we saw a lot of pushback. We saw a ton of pushback from the citizens, and most of it was basically from the perspective of, who are you, 49er, lower 49er, who are you coming in and telling me that I should buy this thing and use it for this? Who the hell are you? You know what I mean? What do you know? Yeah. And so it was very resistive. I think it just takes time, and it takes proof of work, showing people. I was staying out at a lodge at the very north end of Juneau, 15 miles out of town. And the lodge that I was staying at, they were off grid completely. This guy, he built, I think, are you there? Okay. It paused for a second. Yeah, so I'm still okay. So this guy built a hydro operation. So the hydro, the water is dammed up, and then it comes down the river, and it sends power through his pump house and all this stuff, and it powers the lodge. And he was very curious as to whether or not he could install a Bitcoin miner to kind of consume some of that excess power that he has. Because right now what he's doing is he generates about 10 kilowatts, and he only uses like 5-6 kilowatts. So he's got 4 to 5 kilowatts that he's got to dump somewhere, because at times of peak, he's just like producing too much power and he doesn't want to overload his system. So what he's been doing is he has these electric mats glued to his foundation, and he just sends the power to those mats, because the concrete and the ground, like, it's cold, so it sucks in that heat, and the mats are constantly just dumping that electricity in the form of heat. Well, when we told him that we could use Bitcoin miners to do the exact same thing that he's doing right now, produce that heat the same exact way, but get paid on the back end, he was like, how do I do this? And he's not the only one in Alaska that has the same type of situation going on. So again, the use case is extraordinary, but educating the people about it is another thing completely. So what we're hoping is that this guy, we can get him a Bitcoin miner, get him started, get him set up to where he can run it. He can see the unit economics play out, and then he can go back to his community. He's lived there for, his entire life, but then he can go back to his community and he can say, guys, look at what this has done for me. Look at what it can do for you.
Yeah, dude, that's a big win. Like, if you can, and that's, going back to that, it's the independent streak that I was talking about with the Alaskans, right? Like, them telling you, who are you to come in here and tell me what this is? But if you get one of them converted and he becomes a mouthpiece in that little community.
Yeah.
Not that Juneau's small, Juneau's pretty big, but it's like, dude, that is your in right there. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So we're currently right now, me and a guy that I met up there, we're trying to get him onboarded because he's super curious. He's super interested. He just he has a very analytical mind, a very engineering type mind. I mean, he built this entire hydro setup and the battery banks and like the sub power systems. Like, he built all this, so he knows what he's doing. He's smart. So like, we just kind of have to show him the new technology and show him how, like, the parts that he needs and how to install it, and he'll hit the ground running. So
dude, big win. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think we're probably a couple weeks out getting him an S19K. So he'll have 120 terahash just plugged in and just see where it goes.
God, that's so cool. Have you changed any of your setup at home?
I actually did. So I wanted to talk about this. So I released a video the other day on an APW12 modification. So I've been running a Loki rig in the studio here for a little bit, but the biggest issue is that, like, I'm trying to get as much terahash output as possible off of 120 volts. So with the APW3, which is the power supply that comes with your S9 miner, so you're familiar with these, you could just plug it straight into the wall. The problem is that the S19s, which have better efficiency, have more terahash, they don't work on 120 volts. So you have to figure out a way to modify the machine to run off that. So the first modification that I did was just a simple Loki board you get off of Pivotal Pleb. You plug it into the control board and you wire up a APW3 to the hash boards on your S19. The problem with this is that you can only run one hash board. Okay. Because the hash boards take so much juice. The APW3 only puts out like 12 or 13 amp or volts. Yeah, 12 or 13 amps. So it's like a small amount. So what I ended up doing was I did this APW12 modification. So this power supply, I'll grab it real quick. This is your APW12. This comes stock with the S19s. This works off 220. But what you can do is you can solder a 1 ohm resistor onto the 2 brownout detectors in this power supply. What that does is when the computer, the control board connects to this, it allows you to drop the voltage lower. So I can go down to 14 volts instead of being at the higher voltage. I can go down to 14 volts on this power supply. So I can connect this to 120 volts.
So you standard outlet. You don't have to get the 210. Okay.
Yes. But the problem with this, okay, going back to like the hash boards, is like this only runs 2 hash boards. So I got an extra hash board with this. And that's great. But trying to run all 3 hash boards, you overload the circuit.
Okay.
So what I did, and I literally just did this today, I was tinkering in my shed. I combined the 2. So this is what's known as a Urlatcher. The Urlatcher Loki rig is using 2 power supplies. So using an APW12 and the APW3 in conjunction, like in parallel. So not parallel like wiring, but like you
Right.
using them together. So I literally have the APW12 connected to 2 hash boards, and I have the APW3 connected to the other hash board. They're both plugged in. I'm getting 84 terahash at 30 joules per terahash off of my one Loki rig.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yes.
Dude.
Off of 120 volts.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's a win. So oh
ahead.
my God. So the efficiencies through that's so much better efficiency than what you got with the classic S9 just by itself, right?
Yes. It's
so
a lot better.
19 board. So you're running, are all 3 19 boards, the S19 boards that you're running?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
with
I'm running,
power supplies.
I'm using 2 different power supplies so that I can utilize 120 volts on all 3 hash boards. This is awesome because now I can plug this thing in anywhere. And so I have a heater, my S19. I call it my Loki rig because a Loki rig is just a euphemism for a modified Bitcoin miner that allows you to go from 220 to 110. So I'm using my Loki rig as a heater in my shed. And the next big project is going to be creating a baffle kit that allows me to dump heat outside or inside, depending on the temperature in the room. And the delta between the temperature in the room and the temperature outside of the room. So we'll kind of play with that here in the future. But, long story short, I now have a space heater that is super efficient.
Yeah.
As high, the highest amount of output, terahash output I can get on this miner, and the best efficiency I can get for this miner plugged into 120 volt, which is the biggest issue that we have as home miners is these Bitcoin miners, they're 220 volts, and most people don't have a circuit for that.
Yeah, no, and I believe me, whenever I got my S9, when I was first kind of experimenting with mining and all that stuff, I looked at that and I was like, man, look at that. I was like, oh, but you got to have a 210 outlet for that kind of thing. Yeah. Like that's not something that most people have, or it's already occupied by something else.
Yeah.
That's a huge, 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 huge takeaway from that. So how many chips are on each one of the boards that you're messing with that?
I think it's like 70 chips, I want to say. I could be wrong, but I believe there's 70 chips on each board.
Wow. So, basically, you got to break that down for some people that may not understand. Like a BitAxe only has 1 ASIC chip.
Yeah.
On it,
right? Yeah. So a BitAxe, I've got my BitAxe right here.
Dude, and I love that one, by the way. That white paper one, I'm so jealous of it. I'm like, dude, that is so cool.
It's a sick one. So if you pop the fan off and you pop the heat sink off, you'll see 1 chip in here. And these are great because, again, they're 1 chip. They don't require as much power. This is 50 watts versus my S19 Loki rig that's running at 2200 watts. So they considerably less power. They have a much smaller fan because you don't need to cool so much. But, the issue is that like, you're not like, if you connect this to a pool and you collect a daily percentage, you're going to get pennies, maybe not even a full penny a day. So most people solo mine and they're trying to catch that block. But what people don't realize is that when a S19 catches a block, it's not the whole S19 that caught the block. It is 1 chip on 1 hash board that caught it. So by increasing the amount of electrical input and increasing the fans, so the heat dissipation, and increasing the efficiency, you're able to strengthen or grow your chances exponentially of finding a block. Or if you do what I do and you just mine on a daily basis to pool, you collect more Bitcoin on the end.
Yeah, because you're throwing more viable shares at the pool, so you're getting a bigger stake of what's getting turned in as opposed
to. it costs more. You know what I mean? Like my BitX doesn't cost me anything a month. I mean, it's so negligible. I don't even notice it. But my S19, I notice it.
You're like, I know when that thing's on, dude.
But
That's awesome, though. Are you are you going to release like a tutorial on how to do all that?
Yes. So I did the APW12 modification tutorial. That was super easy. So I do it on my sister platform, Stacking Sats.
Okay.
So if you go on Stacking Sats, you'll see that there. I do share it out on my X account as well. So you can go to my X, TrevorBello. You go to my X account, TrevorBello, and you'll find it somewhere. But I did the APW12 modification. I did how to build a Loki rig. So both of those are there. And if you just do one after the other, you kind of go down the same rabbit hole that I'm going down. So the next video that I'm going to do this next month is I'm going to show you how to like run the two power systems together. And that'll allow you to run the entire S19, all the boards in the best, most efficient way possible. So that's kind of like the next one that I'm going to do. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But
I think that's awesome, man.
I just tell everybody, realize that I don't think I'm making, like, if I look at the electricity that I'm using to mine Bitcoin with my S19, I'm not making anything. But this is going back to like my earlier point at the very beginning of this episode. I mine from an ideological perspective. Right. I don't mine Bitcoin because I'm trying to get rich. That's not my prerogative. My point is that there's only one way to secure Bitcoin's network, and that is to mine Bitcoin. Yeah. So my S19 is a greater participant than my BitX in protecting and securing Bitcoin's network. Now, the fact that I collect Bitcoin through that process is a win. I can now, instead of going to an exchange, buying Bitcoin, having all my information KYC'd, the government knows exactly how much Bitcoin I have because it goes from my KYC exchange to my KYC wallet. The government knows. Now, what I'm doing is I am using my utility provider as my Bitcoin exchange. I'm using the electricity that comes from my wall, goes through my Bitcoin miner, and then I collect Bitcoin through the pool. So in that way, I'm mining Bitcoin. I'm mining virgin coins, wild sats, as Kent Halliburton likes to call them. I'm mining wild sats that the government has no idea that I have those. And so I keep it completely separate. You know, I've got my KYC sats and I've got my non-KYC sats. But every day with these miners plugged in, I am mining Bitcoin and I am slowly stacking. Now I might be stacking at a loss versus like the market rate of Bitcoin, but I am stacking.
Yeah. No, and I mean, at the end of the day, I think you're right. You're right on the head with that. Like, what's more important at the end of the day? I mean, electricity costs. Yeah, you're paying to secure the network, and you're also getting yourself a benefit by having those non-KYC sats. Like, to me, I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, and sorry to cut you off, but if you need heat, if you throw in this whole other dynamic of I need heat, I'm already spending money on the electricity that I use for heat. If you do that, the numbers change. It skews completely different. And I'm not very good. Like, I'm not a numbers guy. I don't look at charts. I don't look at the graphs. I don't look at anything. I'm a fuck around and find out kind of guy. Like, I'm like, well, it makes sense. This guy explained it to me. It makes sense. Let me plug it in and see. So basically with my heater at home, my other setup that I have, it only runs in the wintertime. It doesn't run in the summertime because I don't have that baffle kit set up. So in the wintertime, my heater, my original existing heater, runs at, what is it? It was like 4,400 watts, and it costs me like, I want to say $35 a month to run. Okay, cool. $35 a month in the wintertime keeps my family nice and warm. Right. Versus a Bitcoin miner that runs at 2,500 watts, so it's more efficient. It produces the exact same amount of heat, so keeps my family nice and comfortable. It costs me $30 a month to run, and I mine
Bitcoin.
40,000 sats roughly, give or take, is what I mined every single month last year. So last heating season, this last one that we just went through, I mined 40,000 sats every single month, roughly, give or take. So, you know, at $100,000, that's $40. I'm making money.
Dude, that's
You know
awesome.
what I mean? That's the way that I look at it. And I know it's
Yeah.
hard for people to grasp it, but when you look at it from that perspective of I need the heat and now I'm using a Bitcoin miner to provide the heat and I'm collecting Bitcoin on the side, I was already paying for it. It's a win.
Yeah. No, I think that is so cool. And I love how you're spreading that message, because there's a lot of people that really could take advantage of that.
Yeah.
A lot of people really could, especially, God, Alaska, you need to open up your eyes and start doing this stuff.
Yes.
Like, they would be such big advocates of it if they could get it going. I mean, Texas all of a sudden probably wouldn't be the Bitcoin mining hub anymore. It probably would all move up north.
I think it could. This is a really cool stat that Tyler Stevens shares all the time, and I'm gonna get this a little bit wrong, the numbers wise, but if you look at all of the electric in like the electricity consumed in North America, so you know you got to circle half of that electrical infrastructure is heating infrastructure, so industrial and comfort heating. Now a quarter of it, or just below a quarter of that pie, is comfort heat. Okay, I can't remember the total electricity usage, but if you take that 1/4 and you convert 1% of it, just 1%, to hash rate heating infrastructure, it would triple the Bitcoin hash rate.
Really?
Yes, we would be in the triple, like 1 or 2 to 3 zeta hash.
Wow. Well, and you know what? And it becomes one of those things. And how much time do we have? Are you running out of time or anything like that?
What time is it? Hold on. 2:07. I've got about 20 minutes.
Okay. Because I still want to get to you about the Bitcoin conference, because you went to Bitcoin conference too.
Yeah.
But so one of the things, like, as we look forward thinking, AI, as it continues to grow, it's going to be power hungry as can be.
Yeah.
Bitcoin needs to become as efficient as it can be. And I think looking at it from what you're talking about, where it becomes heat reuse with mining, I think that would be a huge, huge win for everybody, because the electricity needs are just going to continue to compound and compound and compound.
Well, in that like, to your point, in that, you know, example that I just gave, all the electrical infrastructure is already there. They're already consuming the same amount of electricity. So you literally don't have to grow the infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure, at any point in order to grow Bitcoin's network hash rate by 3 times. It's incredible. And I would venture to say that there are at least 50%, if not more, of United States residents that need electrical heating infrastructure.
Yeah.
So it's a huge, huge market where people can actually do this. It's just connecting the two dots, the market participant and the heating infrastructure, in a way that they can easily plug it in and go.
Yeah.
Right now, they can't just easily plug it in and go. I mean, there are certain things that are coming, but it takes so much time to build products. It takes so much time to build out the firmware and the software and the hardware components that allows people that don't understand Bitcoin, that don't understand mining, to just be able to plug in this thing and know, hey, when I plug this in, it makes me money.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem that we're having.
Dude, and it blows my mind, because I think about the early days when I came into Bitcoin and all the crazy, horrible ways that they were like, oh, this is going to consume much electricity, and it's going to melt all the polar ice caps, and the Bitcoin energy usage is so inefficient, and all we're doing is making up this digital internet money. It's magical. It doesn't mean anything. And I mean, finding a way to actually integrate it within our current system, and it would be more efficient than what we currently already separate, keeping them separate from each other, combining them together. Mm-hmm. And we still haven't seen that electric collapse that they kept on predicting would happen with Bitcoin from those early days.
Well, yeah, because Bitcoin miners bolster energy grids. They don't cause detriment to electrical grids. That's what people thought they were going to be hugely detrimental to existing electrical infrastructure. What they didn't realize is that because Bitcoin miners have the ultimate demand response capabilities, they're energy buyers of last resort. They don't care where the energy comes from. It could be from a coal powered plant or it can be from a solar power plant. Doesn't matter. We'll buy whatever energy you're willing to sell us, and we can shut off whenever we want. They didn't realize that all of a sudden this allows grid operators. Most people don't know where their electricity comes from. Most people don't know that when you plug in a hairdryer, where that electricity actually comes from.
Yeah.
There is a huge problem that grid operators have to manage when they're managing how much energy is coming into your home. Okay. At different times of the day, there's different demand. And all of that demand does not meet the same output frequencies as the power plants are providing. So you have this huge swing in like how much electricity is being provided and how much electricity is being consumed at different times, and it's never stable. What Bitcoin miners do is they allow that swing to do this.
Yep.
So grid operators now have the ability to balance those scales much better than before. And so any grid operator that is operating a grid that is sending power from the electrical provider to the electrical consumer that knows that a Bitcoin miner is inside of it, they will tell you that Bitcoin mining is the best thing to ever happen to their grid.
Yep. Yeah, because all of a sudden, whenever they get the demand drops, they can send that electricity to the miner. The miner's going to use it up, and they don't have to worry about constantly trying to keep that within balance.
Mm-hmm. Just to my original, I was telling you about that guy in Juneau who he produces 10 kilowatts. He only consumes 6 kilowatts. He has to do something with that other 4 kilowatts or he loads his system and everything shuts down and breaks. So where does he send that 4 kilowatts of electricity?
Into his floor.
Into the floor. Bitcoin miners are that for the grid. And so we're going to see shifts. I don't think this is something that happens in a year. This is obviously it's taken 16 years to build out the electrical infrastructure that we have when it comes to Bitcoin mining, the network effect, the hash rate. It takes time. I think this is a 20-year play. I really do. It's going to take 20 years for politicians, for residents, for representatives to start to realize the effects that Bitcoin is having, because for the last 20 years, project ourselves in the future, 20 years has gone by. We've seen the net benefit that Bitcoin has played on our society, on our grids, on our money. It has huge, huge implications. We're just not there yet.
Yeah. Well, and I think currently the current administration, going back to politics for a moment, I think we're seeing the first steps that we need to see take place with this, because people need to see the benefit as a whole. They need to understand that. And I think having the Genius Act, Clarity Act, anti-CBDC, all that stuff, it's first steps. And we need to see that continue to grow and get that in the people's, the zeitgeist, really. They need to really understand how all that's going to play out and be a benefit for them in the future. And really, I know we're kind of running short, but I do want to ask you about Bitcoin conference. I was so tempted to go. And maybe next year, my travel schedule this year was filled up with other things that I have commitments to. But next year, I've got some vacation time, and I'm like, okay, I really want to go to a Bitcoin conference. Is it worth it? Yes or no?
No. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
The Bitcoin conference, the national conference, is a huge shitcoin fest. At the end of the day, again, I'm a Bitcoin maxi. I believe Bitcoin is the way to go. Everything else is it's kind of a distraction.
Yeah.
And the problem with these giant conferences is that they need sponsors to pay for the conference. Otherwise, they're losing money. So what do? They allow the shit coins to come in and pay $150,000 for a booth. They sponsor the food, the catering, the parties, the events. And now that sponsor has the ability to shift the narrative at the conference. So it's a great opportunity to meet people, network, if you stay in your lane and, don't go outside of it. But is it worth spending the money on a ticket and then flying to Vegas, which is, in my opinion, a shithole of a city anyways?
Yeah.
There's nothing out there. You're in the middle of the desert. It fucking sucks. Nashville was better. Nashville was a better location, but they're going to be in Vegas next year. So in my opinion, no, it's not worth it. If you're going to go to a conference, if you're like, I really need to get to a conference, go to a smaller conference. There are so many good conferences in really great locations. Like I just went to Bitcoin Alaska. This was an incredible conference. There was satellite events going on like the week before the actual conference. So everybody's hanging out. We're all talking about Bitcoin. We're all growing, sharing information. And then the conference happens and now we're all know each other. We've all had like the last 5 days to get to know one another, get to have these great conversations. And now we're like showing people, so in my opinion, the Bitcoin conference, it's not worth going to unless you're getting paid to be there. Like me, like I get paid to be there, so I'm going to go. But if you have to pay for your ticket, if you have to go because, like you're like, oh, I need to go to an event, don't go. Just find a different one. There's BTC++, there's BitBlock Boom, there's so many other conferences that you could spend your money on that would give you more value than you could get at a national conference. And I hope David Bailey is watching this. I know he's not, but clip this, share it with David Bailey, because honestly, dude, you've grown so much. You've grown the capacity of the Bitcoin conference. It's just turned into a shitcoin fest, and us maxis, we don't care.
Well, and I think that's two things. Number one, they probably need to change the name if it's not a Bitcoin conference really anymore.
It's not.
The second thing is when I saw that Peter Schiff was going to be speaking there, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He has sat there and just talked shit about Bitcoin for
and he's still talking shit
fucking long.
It's been 16 years.
He is the broken clock. Right. But even the broken clock's right twice a day. Right.
Not him.
He's still wrong. And it's just like, I can't believe they had him at the conference. And I'm like, what, for satire? Like, why would you have him speak there?
Yeah, it was for satire. I mean, at the end of the day, like, and I'm not a fan of Michael Saylor. I know that he's well-spoken. He's helped a lot of people understand Bitcoin, but I don't think he's a net benefit for Bitcoin. Not anymore. Honestly, like I have some weird conspiracy theories about Michael Saylor, but I'm not going to get into that because we don't have the time. Nonetheless,
save that. We're going to have to go over that. I'm curious to see what you have to say about that.
I 100% have some conspiracy theories about Michael Saylor, but that is for another time. Really, like, it's not worth it, man. Like you spend so much money to get out there. You spend so much money on the tickets. You got to buy food. You got to buy oh my God.
Vegas is expensive.
The casinos, staying at the casinos. Literally, I had a buddy who was paying $400 a night, and then he gets there to pay for it. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you've got this fee, that fee, and this fee, and it's going to cost you an extra $150 a night. He was like,
fee on top of it every time.
Exactly, dude. He had no idea. I was like, you're literally spending to be there for a week. You're literally spending $1,700. You haven't even gone to the conference yet.
Mm-mm. No, and I mean,
paid for food.
I spend quite a bit of time in Vegas, not by choice. Well, sometimes by choice, but Vegas is an expensive place, and I can only handle Vegas for about 3 days, and then I'm done.
Dude, I was so done. I mean, you're from the desert. You know what desert feels like. I'm from the coast. Okay. I got trees around me. There's water.
This is what I mean? Fucking country, man. What are you guys doing here?
I got to the desert.
That got there one day. I was like, I'm going to step down here.
No. No. Why?
Oh man.
Well, Hanz, this has been fun. I'm really enjoying doing these. We should definitely do this again.
You know what? And sometime I want to join you on Spaces. I see every once in a while that you're out. I just want to jump on and just shoot the shit with you. Get in there and just talk some trash.
Do it. Let's bring you on as a guest, man. We'll be the featured guest. You can tell us about your experience as home miner, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool, man.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
Trevor, I appreciate it, man. I love doing these.
No, these are fun. I love having these conversations with you, Hanz. I think it's a great way to stretch my my brain you know, a little bit. Cause I'll be honest, I'm a 40 IQ over here. Like
whatever.
I'm just trying to stretch it, you know, but having these
Shit.
conversations, it helps me. So
Dude, you blow my mind.
all right, brother.
Right.
Well, hey, we'll see you next time. We'll get one scheduled in the next couple months and then we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Trevor.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Take care, Hans.
See y'all.